Imagine meeting a travel nurse paying $3,000 a month to stay in a sketchy motel. Most people see a strange situation. Our guest saw a $2.1 million opportunity. Jesse Vasquez walked away from a $200,000 a year golden handcuffs healthcare job by recognizing a massive gap in the housing market, the midterm rental. Today, his portfolio generates over $2.1 million in gross revenue annually, and he brings in 3 to 5 times the cash flow of a traditional landlord. That sounds like the absolute dream here, all without dealing with high turnover or cleaning toilets. He's here to show you how the midterm rental business is the easiest real estate niche to start with no money or no property, and how a simple AI prompt can make you $39,000 a month. I'm Ryan Atkinson, and you're listening to UpFlip Podcast, where we uncover the secrets of building and running successful businesses. And I am so excited to have Jesse on here today. So Jesse, thank you so much for being here and talking about midterm rentals with us.
Yeah, what's up, man? Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here as well.
It's going to be super good. You're on the YouTube channel, so I'm excited to get you on the podcast here. But let's start with a baseline for the audience. For anyone who has never heard of you before, heard of midterm rentals, can you kind of explain to us in 20 seconds about like what you do to set the basis for this?
Yeah, my name's Jesse Vasquez. I'm over in Modesto, California. And basically the way to talk about midterm rentals is 30-day stays at a time. So forget long-term, forget short-term. This is right smack in the middle where you have a travel nurse that's on assignment for 90 days. You have a construction company that's working on a new bridge that's going to maybe be 6 months of staying in a property. So essentially I connect with companies and they're going to be using my property to stay, or properties in other markets, as they're staying on assignment for whatever, whether they're travel nurses or doctors or whatever it is. And they pay 2 to 3 to 5 times long-term rental rates, which is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, pretty freaking awesome is right here. So what does that equate to like annually? What are you doing annually in revenue? And then we're going to talk more about how someone can get started in this, but I want to lay that basis.
Yeah, I have 22 properties right now all across California. So Central Valley, California, all the way up from Bakersfield to Sacramento, a little bit in the Bay Area, and then in Houston, Texas. And we do about $170,000 a month right now. And that's in revenue. For all the properties, they average about $7,000 a door, which is usually 2 to 3 times long-term rental rates, especially in California. So we're doing about 170,000. It fluctuates every now and then, but we're pretty consistent right now because I've been doing this for a decade and I built these relationships with all these companies, which I'm sure we're going to talk about here in a minute. But yeah, that's what we're doing now with 20 something properties.
Well, let's dive into it then. At least it's the basis for us. But I got to ask, I mean, were you born and bred to be in the real estate market coming out of the womb? Or like, was there a specific moment where you're like, okay, I need to get into this mid-term rental space? And like, how did you identify that opportunity?
Yeah, man. To be honest with you, Ryan, I learned real estate when I was young. And the way I learned it is when I was a kid, I was picked up from school one day. I don't know if you've ever seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Have you watched that before, Ryan?
Have never seen it, which is funny enough because I know people absolutely love that. Have never seen it though, so don't hate me for that, but I've not seen it.
You got to put that on your queue, man. You got to watch that. So I was picked up. My parents used to drive the same car that the Griswolds had. It's like this. It's this old minivan looking thing. It's like a station wagon. I got picked up from school one day, and long story short, my parents took me to a courthouse. I was sitting in the back of that courthouse, and as a kid, I was 9 years old. I watched my parents go through an eviction process with them trying to get a tenant out of their home. So my introduction to real estate was like, I was awful, man. It was like my parents arguing. It was them losing a property over a period of time. So I never really wanted to get into real estate. Up until 2015, I worked as a healthcare development manager for 18 years. And there was a woman named Barbara that was at this nursing station. And I happened to walk by her and she had this amazing accent, Ryan. She was saying like, maybe you can guess this. She was like, "Isn't he a doll?" And she would say, "Watch out for deer." And you know what accent that is? You familiar with that at all?
I mean, I'm assuming it's from somewhere in the South, but if I hear
No.
doll, I'm thinking of like the South, but I don't know.
I'm awful with impersonations. She was from Fargo, North Dakota, and she staged. "Isn't he a doll?" I'm from California. Everybody here says dude and bro and man all the time. So I was drawn to her, and she told me she was a travel nurse, Ryan. And that's when I realized, like, oh my gosh, there was a massive amount of opportunity. So I saw this travel nurse, and she just basically said, "I'm a travel nurse. I'm on assignment, and I'm staying here for 90 days." And she told me she was staying in a Motel 6 in the worst place, Ryan, worst space in Modesto, like this prostitute-ridden, drug-infested place, which actually we went and recorded at it with UpFlip when they came out. And I realized that the power of these companies paying is 2 to 3 times long-term rental rates. And that's the moment that I started to flip and realize, like, oh my gosh, these companies are paying thousands of dollars by connecting with people like Barbara, which I seen all over the place. So that was kind of like my introduction to like the awful stuff as a kid, and then seeing an opportunity when I had no intention of being in real estate, but seeing that there was an opportunity there.
Well, let's talk about that opportunity then, because obviously you identified this, you're seeing what they're paying, you're hearing where they're living at. What did you do? And like, what would you advise people that are listening right now to do to get started on like that very first rental property?
Well, I'll tell you right now what I did. And this is something that sounds really boring. And I'm going to explain the story to you guys here in a minute. So, after I met Barbara, she told me to go down to talk to the HR department because she told me she was staying in a crappy place. The hospital wasn't able to find her. For anybody that's ever worked in a hospital before, right, you got to have a badge. Like you'll see, like they badge it in. There's a little key card on the door and you badge it in. I sat in the HR department stairwell for about 20 minutes waiting for somebody to badge in to go into that office because you had to have a key to get in there. And I sat there for 20 minutes. I'm like, should I really go and do this or not? All of a sudden, a nurse came in. She got her badge. She zipped in, and the door swung open. It was one of those quiet closed doors where, like, it opens right away, and then it slowly started to close. And I'm like, should I do this? Should I not do it? Should I do it? And Ryan, right before, about 10 inches before the door shut, I stuck my freaking nasty shoe in the way, stopped it from closing. I opened the door, and there was this woman sitting right in the front. Her name was Misty, and I remember her name because she had the big giant pencil like you have, school teachers when you're like in third grade. And I said, hey, I just talked to Barbara on the third floor on telemetry floor. And she's like, what the hell are you doing in here? How'd you get in here? And I said, well, this is what I explained the story to her. And I told her that I was interested in housing people like Barbara and how I connect with that. And Misty was like, we've been looking for somebody like you that owns homes. I didn't own any houses, Bride. Just keep that in mind. And she said, we've been looking for somebody like you that owns property or has property because we've been having our clinicians stay in these crappy places. And that right there, Ryan, if I didn't do that regular kind of thing where I put myself in the way of going in to talk to somebody when I had no idea about what I was doing, which a lot of listeners right now are like, should I do this? Should I not do it? Is this something I want to do? Something as simple as putting my foot in the door to go in to talk to somebody. That was the moment that changed my, like, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now, Ryan, if I didn't do that. So the cool thing about this is that a regular guy like myself, which can relate to most people in a lot of ways, like you don't have to do anything astronomical. It's just me figuring out and talking to the right person and getting uncomfortable for a minute and just sticking my foot in the door and asking her. And she literally was like, go get property, we'll work with you. And that was it, man. Like that's how it all started off for me.
That's what I love about like entrepreneurship. I feel like there's always just that one like distinct moment when, especially when you're just like starting from zero, where you're like, do I do this? Do I not do this? But as I say a lot on this podcast, like that's generally like what separates the entrepreneur from like the wannabepreneur is like the entrepreneurs like actually took action, similar to like what you're saying there. I'm sure that has been the best decision of your life, maybe up to this point.
Yeah, and I was not an entrepreneur. Like I did not have that mentality. I did not think about that at all. I wasn't one of those like Gary V guys. It's like I was selling baseball cards in third grade. Like I had none of that at all. So it was just like I saw this opportunity, this glimmer of light. I seen all these people, and I just made a decision. I think again, that's most people fall into that category. But you're right, man. It's about taking that initial action and actually making movement. And somehow the universe, God, whatever it is that people believe, like you will be recognized when you go out and put yourself in a situation like that. Something positive will come from it. Like really, I honestly believe that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in the same exact boat for you. It's not a coincidence that like the opportunity was there and you took it upon it. But okay, for the listener that is interested in doing like the midterm rentals as well, like one, do you need to identify people that are going to potentially live there? And like two, like how do you identify the best properties for this? I'd love to hear more two than one, honestly, but give us both.
Yeah. So I think the best way to identify these properties is you need to find out what's actually happening in your market. And there's some really cool websites that allow you to do that. First one everybody knows is Airbnb. So if you list on Airbnb, you will have people reach out to you that will ask like, hey, I want to stay at your place for 30 days at a time if you have your property listed for 30 days. And you just ask them like, hey, what company are you coming from? Are you on assignment here? Like, is there more people coming with you? And you'll start to find out they might work for Marshall. If you guys are into music at all, there's a company called Marshall and all the big bands and all these people use them. They were building a new platform in Houston, Texas, and I happened to have a connection there. So I talked to them on Airbnb, and they said, "Yeah, we're going to be staying with 6 other people." So I built a relationship with Marshall, the company, and I was able to have people come stay there. So the types of properties really are going to be uniquely identified by the people that are coming into your market. So Furnish Finder is another website that everybody can use, and it's free. You can actually list your property on there. I think actually I'm lying. I think it's $149 a month, but you can list on that platform, and people will send notes to you and say, "Hey, I'm coming from this area. I'm looking for this." They're telling what company they work for. You can just ask them what companies do you work with. And you start to think about this like, I want to build a relationship with this company and this person so I can eventually have them stay at my property where they'll pay 2 to 3, 4 times long-term rental rates. So that's originally how I start to look at it. And if you start talking to nurses and you realize that they're one nurse coming by themselves or there's 2 nurses, then you start to like formulate, okay, 1 bedroom is going to work best in my market because I've identified 4 companies and they're all coming down. They always have one employee. Or you might look at, Marshall or Google, or you might talk to somebody from Apple and they're coming with 10 to 20 employees. So now you might want to think about a 3 bedroom house or bigger because you can house more people. So that's typically how I do it is I want to look at what's happening in the market, and you don't have to own any property yet. This is the cool thing about this. For those of you listening right now, like, oh, I would love to do this. I want to make 175 grand, a year with 20 properties. You don't have to own anything. You guys heard my original story. Like I didn't actually own any property. I found the opportunity and then I bought the property. Then they worked with me. So you can actually reverse engineer it, which is a lot different than most business models in the real estate space. It's completely different. You can actually do this without owning property.
Are you working a 9 to 5 but dream of entrepreneurial freedom? Look no further than the UpFlip Academy, the #1 entrepreneurial platform with 20 plus step-by-step courses taught by active business owners, live workshops, hands-on skill training, a business idea database, and a thriving entrepreneur community to keep you accountable. Click the link in the description below to join the UpFlip Academy today and make this the year you stopped dreaming and started building your business without guesswork.
I want to talk about that process though. So you're identifying the opportunity first, and then you're actually going to buy the houses?
Yes, that's exactly how I've done it. So yeah, like I'll just give you another example. There's a company called Gallo Winery. They're out of Modesto, California. They make it's a wine called Apothic Wine. It's like this massive, huge wine. It's distributed all across the U.S. On Furnish Finder, I noticed that there was 3 engineers. They were all 3 different engineers, and they were asking for lodging. And what I ended up doing is I ended up calling Gallo Winery and saying, "Hey, I just saw that there's 3 people that are looking for housing. They're all coming from Europe. Do you guys have a housing department?" And the woman, her name was Liz. She was like, "Yeah, we would love to be able to work with somebody that has property so we can send all of our engineers that help make wine. Every 3 months, we have new engineers that come from other markets in other places of the world, like Spain and Europe and France and all this stuff, to help us develop new wines. We would love to be able to work with somebody that has property and we can keep them in the property." I ended up getting a 2-year lease with them, Ryan. The mortgage on that property was $2,000. They were paying $6K a month.
Wow.
Yeah, whether there was somebody there or not. So they just wanted to make sure that they had a reliable, comfortable house that was close nearby Gallo so that these engineers that can come from all over the world and stay on this property while they're on assignment to work at Gallo Winery. So again, there was an opportunity. I saw it by literally just connecting with these companies that I saw the people requesting property on Furnish Finder. So that's how you get started. And again, most people they're not going to want to pick up the phone. They're not going to want to dial anybody. It's too uncomfortable. They don't know what they're talking about. But that's where you have to start to put yourself out there in a way, start to assume and respond to some of these things. And I have a YouTube channel where you guys can go check this stuff out. But there's so much information that's available nowadays, Ryan, that there's no reason why people shouldn't be able to go out there and create this opportunity for themselves. Again, you don't have to have the property. You just got to like do a little bit of research and find out who's coming. And that's the easy part.
We're talking about outreach to like hospitality companies or even like a staffing agency or something. Like, if you're starting from zero, like what's the first like outreach move that you do to them? Do you just pick up the phone and say, who's coming here, how often, or talk to us about that?
Yeah, I'm going to give everybody right now a masterclass on this because by the end of this conversation, when you guys are driving down the road, just in the market that you guys live in, you're going to spot opportunities after you're listening to this whole entire conversation. And that's the whole point of this. So the very first thing that I would do is I would actually start to drive around in a town. Like if you live in, I'll give you guys an example of this. I drove by Extended Stay Americas. You know what that is, Ryan? Extended Stay America?
Oh, yeah, I know them.
It's a hotel chain. And what they do is they're actually the biggest government contracted hotel company in the US. They're actually owned by BlackRock and Blackstone. BlackRock, actually. That's who the biggest midterm rental competitors are. I drove by there one time, Ryan, and I saw work trucks that were parked outside. I took photos with my iPhone 17 or whatever it was at the time, iPhone 10 or whatever. Took photos of the work trucks that were from other states. And I called those companies the next day and I said, "Hey, I see that there's work trucks in front of Extended Stay America. I'm actually a housing provider for construction workers, for doctors, for all these different agencies. And I'm curious how much you guys are actually spending a month right now on lodging." And this woman that I talked to on the phone, this company that was based out of Alabama, they had 5 engineers. They were paying $150 a night for those 5 engineers that each have their own rooms in Extended Stay America. If you do the math on that, that's literally almost $22,000 a month that they're spending on having 5 people stay at an Extended Stay America. And I was like, "Hey, I actually have a 5-bedroom house. Can you tell me where your work assignment's at?" And she gave me the general area. She didn't give me exactly where. And I was like, "My property's half a mile away. And instead of you paying $22,000 a month, I would charge you $10K to have all 5 of your engineers. It's a 5-bedroom, 4-bath. So you're saving $15,000 a month. They're going to be at this job site for 6 months." So that right there alone, Ryan, I was able to get that place booked for $10K a month, saving that company $12,000 a month for 6 months. Do the math on that. And they ended up actually connecting with me every time they were going to another market. Liz would call me and say, "Hey, Jess, we're going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana now. Do you have any property out there?" And guess what I would do? I'd connect with my community and say, "Who's got property in Baton Rouge, Louisiana?" They would end up doing the deal. I would get a 10% fee. So $10,000, I would make $1,000 a month for 6 months just by connecting a person to another person. And that's the whole goal on this. And I want everybody to get this. It's not like the short-term rental industry where it's like, pick me, my place is the best. I have the best home. I got the best pictures. I got the most cold plunges. I got the most, themed out cactus house, whatever it is. Like, this is like we're a community where, right, you can have a property in Austin, Texas. I'm in California and somebody's going there. I'm going to connect with you and you and I can do a deal together. You're going to pay me a little bit of a referral fee because you're now getting your place booked for 6 months. So it's like, if you build relationships, I have students that are doing over $1 million right now, Ryan, just by connecting people. And I think that's one of the craziest and coolest things is that you don't actually have to own any property. You could just be a lead connector connecting with these companies and building the relationships with the owners of the property. And then that's all you got to do. Like, so when you talk about all these different opportunities, like you don't have to own home. You can go be a lead connector. You can go drive by extended stay Americas. You can drive by construction sites and see work trucks from out of state. Light bulb goes off. Oh my gosh, now there's an actual opportunity there for me to do something. And again, depending on what lane you're in, if you want to be a lead connector, if you want to own property, if you want to arbitrage a property, rent somebody else's home and put those people in there, or rent your house for $3,000 and sublease it for $10,000, you could do that too. So now you're making $7,000 a month, Ryan, from renting my property and putting those people in there, just subleasing it out. So there's so many ways to do this.
For the one that you like took a picture of and like, hey, like we're at an extended stay, we're spending $22,000 a month. For that instance, did you actually like buy a house for them to like stay in then? Or like, can you clarify that for us? Or what did that?
I did not buy a house. I actually had a property that was a 5-bedroom, 4-bath that's
You already
in
had
Central
it.
Valley. Yeah, I already had it. But if I didn't have it, this is what I want everybody to realize. If you go on Furnish Finder or you go on Zillow, Ryan may have a 5-bedroom, 4-bath property. I'm just giving you guys that as an example now. He may have that listed on one of these platforms, Zillow, as a fully furnished house for $3,000 a month. I got a contract for $10,000. Ryan, I can call you up and say, hey, Ryan, my name's Jesse Vasquez. I own a company that places companies and people in property. Your property happens to be the perfect fit for this family. I'm willing to sublease your house for $3,000, what you have it listed for the next 10 months to a company. Is that something you're willing to do? And you could say, yes, no, whatever it is. And if you say yes, I'm going to rent your house for $3,000. I'm going to sublease it for $10,000. So I'm making $7,000 a month
Wow.
by literally just using your house and then re-subleasing it out to the company for $10,000. Because I already have a contract with you. You and I have a lease together, and you know that I'm going to be subleasing that out. So I just want everybody to get context of that. So I technically can rent without owning any home, but just building a relationship. I just made $7,000 a month for the next 6 months or however long they're going to be there for by renting your house for $3,000 and then subleasing it for $10,000.
It makes 100% sense. The question that I'm sure a skeptical listener is going to say, is that legal? Like, is that legal?
100% legal. Yeah. Subleasing is what corporate housing companies have been doing since the 50s. So this is technically corporate housing. If you think about it at its core, we're just doing it on an indie boutique level where it's independent operators, boutique operators that are doing this on a smaller scale and not a large scale. So this corporation, this methodology of what I'm talking about has been done for literally 60 years now by big corporations. We're just doing it on an indie level, on a boutique level.
Again, I want to ask, like, if I'm listening to this podcast right now and I'm going to go do this tomorrow, how do I do this? Do I literally Google, like, travel? I don't know. Like, what do I do tomorrow if I'm actually interested in this? Because this is really cool. It's a newer business idea, especially for UpFlip. So I'm curious, like, how do I actually get started with this tomorrow? This isn't like a trash valet service where it's a little bit more. How do you do it?
Yeah. So you're going to want to educate yourself in the market. So you're going to want to know who's coming into your market. Like, do you have hospitals? If you have any level 1 or level 2 trauma hospitals, and that's basically like essentially Grey's Anatomy, level 1, level 2 hospitals are basically that, where it's a trauma center. They have specialty doctors on site. Those big hospitals like that attract more clinicians. They attract more people. The agencies will pay for the housing. So they may pay $6,000, $7,000 for a doctor to come stay. You got to start to do research on how to do that. In fact, I'm going to give everybody a pro tip right now. If everybody goes to Indeed.com and say you live in Austin, Texas, what you're going to want to do is go into Indeed, and where it says job, type in registered travel nurse, and then type in Austin, Texas. And you will literally have probably 100 leads of companies that you can start calling and saying, hey, I'm a provider of housing for so-and-so travel nurses in this market. I'm in Austin, Texas. I see that you guys are hiring. Is there a recruiter that's attached to this agency? And if they say, yes, we do have travel nurses, there's a recruiter attached, I am now going to go on LinkedIn. So if it's Jesse Vasquez, who's the recruiter, I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to look for that person. I'm going to DM them and I'm going to say, hey, I just talked to so-and-so at your company. We were able to have a connection. Oh, I have property if there's any housing that needs to be done. And then you start to build that relationship with that recruiter. And the whole goal is that every time they have a client that's going to be coming into this market, you're the first person they go to because you have the housing. So You can also talk to a travel nurse, and travel nurses, they send notes on Furnish Finder all the time. So if I get a nurse that say her name's Barbara and she's like, "Hey Jess, I'm looking for a house in Austin, Texas. I'm looking for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath." I'll reach out and say, "Hey, Barb, can you tell me who your recruiter is? Can you tell me what agency you work with? Can you tell me a little about how long your stay is?" Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to look up Ryan Atkinson. I'm going to send you a note and say, "Hey, I just talked to Barbara." And those recruiters are super connected. You know this, Ryan. The recruiters and the nurses are super connected probably about 30 days before they go on assignment. The second that I send a note to her on LinkedIn, she's automatically going to want to respond to me because I'm going to say, "Hey, I just talked to Barbara. She's talking about housing. Do you got a few minutes to talk?" That is now a warm lead. I've now instantly warmed up this conversation. I mean, how many of you listening to this right now have got notes on LinkedIn or Instagram and it's some random person trying to sell you something? But if they're like, "Hey, Ryan Atkinson reached out," you know Ryan, you're going to respond to that email. You're going to pick up the phone, you're going to dial them, especially if you're dealing with them as a recruiter. So that's my way of like being able to build in the spaces. You get the person, Furnish Finder, Airbnb, you'll get messages that get sent to you. Reverse engineer that. Go and find, ask questions of who's the company they're working for and go do research on those companies. We have AI now where you can like literally go into AI and say, "Hey, AMN Healthcare is hiring and I need to look up Ryan Atkinson. Can you give me his LinkedIn profile?" And guess what's going to happen? It's going to search. It's going to pull it up. I can click on it. Now I can send you a note. Like it's that easy.
That is like so interesting. So is there really a world where someone could, one, do this digitally, like they don't even have to like be in person like ever, and two, like could they in theory like actually never own a rental property and just kind of like be the middleman between there? Is that, if you could answer both of those? I know it's two questions in one, but
Ryan, you can do this anywhere, dude. You don't have to own any property. You can sublease somebody else's property. The person that you sublease a property from is going to walk through the house with a travel nurse. They're going to do all the work because they're getting their place booked. So they're super excited about it. You're just subleasing the house out. Like you're just essentially doing the deal. You sublease that house for X amount of money. So yes, you could do it remote and you don't need to be in person.
so do you actually need to own any like property to do this, or can you, in theory, if you want to get started tomorrow, you could just kind of be the middleman here?
Exactly. You can 100% be the middleman, but you're going to obviously want to lease somebody else's home. That's how you make the most money. So if I wanted to lease your house, you have it listed for 3K, I would say, "I'm going to rent your house for 6 months for 3K. Is that something you're willing to do?" And you would say yes. And then I would sublease your house for 3, and I would sublease that house back out again for 10K a month. So 100% you could do that. I do that all the time. I have a bunch of students who do that. In fact, I just have with UpFlip now, I have a program with you guys where I teach you guys how to do this as well. So you guys can check that out on UpFlip.
Right there, I mean, you know, you're going to rent it out for 3,000, you're going to charge 10,000. That's obviously 7,000 in profit, like straight there. Who's renting this out for 10,000? Like, are you just like looking for undervalued homes and then just not upcharging, but like, you know, kind of charging more?
Here's what I want everybody to understand. I'm not trying to price gouge. What happens is like insurance companies, every 88 seconds in the United States, somebody loses their home due to a fire, a flood. We've seen so many catastrophic events. In fact, I have a family right now, one of my properties. Everybody took off to school at 7:30 in the morning. The family took off. They left, the daughter who's 16 left the faucet on upstairs, Ryan. Everybody came back home at 6 p.m. at night. The entire upstairs flooded in the downstairs. They had to move out. They couldn't stay in the house. Everything was flooded. Kitchen was damaged. Like everything was done. So I work with insurance companies. Insurance companies pay 3 to 5 times long-term rental rates. And here's why. Because an insurance company wants to have somebody that has flexibility. They don't want to, long-term landlords don't want to deal with a company for 3 months. They don't want to have somebody coming in for 3 months. They want stability. They want somebody for 12 months, 2 years, 3 years. And the reason why we make so much money is because we're taking the risk of somebody coming in for 3 months with a furnished house where they're going to be living in there for 3 to 6 months with the potential to extend. So these insurance companies, they're worth more than banks. Like they're the most massive companies on the planet. For those who don't know, they are 100% willing to pay 3 to 5 times long-term rental rates to have somebody in for that stability for 3 to 6 months while their house is being fixed so they can move back into it. So to me, insurance companies, temporary housing companies, that's my favorite strategy because they pay more. Not only that, but you're also like being able to supply a home for somebody in your community, like somebody loses their home due to a fire, flood, stuff like that. So you're really able to maximize income because these insurance companies are paying for the likelihood of you being able to, 3 to 6 months or longer. I've had somebody in one of my properties now for 18 months. It's an insurance claim. They're having their house built from the ground up. You will get these like really big, bookings at some point, but I'm also helping the community at the same time. And to me, that's like a double win, man, like for sure.
That's incredible right there. Let's go into our last question. We're going to jump into Fan Blitz here. Let's make this the most actionable question maybe of them all. But for someone entering the rental space and, as we get into 2026 here, what is the single most important action they should take, within the next 24 hours to start a real business here?
Yeah, what I would be doing right now, if I was starting from scratch and I'm like, I need to take action, I would first go to UpFlip Academy and probably buy the program that you guys have. It's It's like $20 a month. So just start to get information of like what's actually happening, like what is actually being done. It's one thing to listen to a podcast. It's another to start educating yourself. I have a YouTube channel. YouTube, it's Midterm Rentals with Jesse Vasquez. I have hours and hours of free content there. And then what I would do afterwards is I would look in your market, start to go on furnishfinder.com. I would go on Airbnb. I would drive by, like we just talked about today, driving by Extended Stay Americas and start to find out like what companies are coming into your market. Gallo Winery. You guys heard me talk about Gallo Winery. That's a winery company, but they have engineers that come. So start calling your local hospitals, ask if they have travel nurses, what companies they're working with, and what the recruiter is. Start doing that research of finding out who's actually coming and why. That's the first thing that I would do. The second piece of this is you're going to want to start to reach out to individual owners of properties, just like you, Ryan. So you can go on Zillow, you can go on Furnish Finder, you can go on apartments.com and just start reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'm going to be connecting with companies. Is it possible if I am able to sublease your house, or I'm able to get referrals for you to get your property booked, and I'm going to be the person that's going to be driving those leads to you. So you can be paying me 10%. I can rent your property. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can make this work. That's where I would start now, is really education, understanding the market, and finding out who's coming through by keeping your ear to the ground and knowing that. And just start to do that. That's the first piece of the puzzle.
Super, super good. So I'm going to challenge everyone that is listening to this to go into 2026 doing that. I absolutely love this idea. I think it is super, super clever. So Jesse, shout out to you for that one. But before we end this interview, let's hop into our Fan Blitz questions. Listeners, if you want to join in on world-class entrepreneurs doing world-class things, write to us at podcast@upflip.com and submit any questions that you want to hear in the future there, or just give us any feedback. Either one works. Jesse, ready for our last 5 questions here?
Yeah, let's do it.
What is one under $100 upgrade every midterm rental operator should add to their unit?
That is going to be a box fan or noise machines, especially if you're going to be housing travel nurses. Keep in mind, travel nurses work from 7 p.m. These nurses sleep during the day. So blackout curtains, noise machines, like especially if there's a noisy environment, you want these nurses to be able to sleep. That's one of the most important things for them. And comfortable beds. So like that's not $100 though. So blackout curtains, noise machines, that's where I'd start. You need those for sure.
What is the single fastest way someone with 0 properties can land their first hospital contract?
Yep. I would just start calling those hospitals and talking to the HR department, kind of like my original story, and just saying, hey, do you have travel nurses that are coming into this market? Do you guys house travel nurses? And what companies are you working with now? And who's the recruiter attached to it? Just get that information. Once you get that, you're 90% of the way there. You just need to now go find the property.
If you lost all your properties tomorrow, what is the first market you would rebuild in and why?
I would actually probably go to Austin. I would be in your market. Reason being is my favorite markets are markets that have a lot of tech that are coming through. So like Colorado is another place. Any of the data centers that are being put together, like Abilene, Texas, places like that have a large amount of influx of workers that are coming through for the next 3 to 5 years. Those are markets that I love. So Austin is one of those. The prices of homes are going down and there's a lot of tech companies. So I look for level 1, level 2 hospitals, tech companies, growth in markets. That's where I'd be focusing right now. So I'd be in Austin.
What's one mistake beginners make in their first 30 days that instantly hurts revenue?
Yeah, they're thinking just about money and not the process of the person that's actually dealing with the stuff that they're like a travel nurse. Like, what do they actually need? Somebody that's lost their home in a fire and a flood. Like, you're thinking about money. They're just thinking about survival and being in a place. So if you're able to have empathy and put yourself in their scenario or situation, and you're able to meet them where they are, that's how I was able to grow my business. In fact, I had this woman named Irene that stayed at my property one time, Ryan. She was crying. Like, we sat at a dinner table crying super hard. And the only thing that she wanted was to be able to eat dinner at a table with her family, which they weren't doing for 3 weeks because they were at a hotel. Dude, I started crying. Like it hit me so hard because like I was like thinking about dollars and money, and she's like just wanted to eat dinner at a table, stuff we take so granted on a regular basis. So for me, I'm like, my business took off like a hockey stick when I started to have empathy for the people that were coming through and not just the business side of making money. And that's where I truly believe the magic is.
What is one outreach message or line that has gotten you more business than anything else?
Yep. The biggest, most important message I've ever been able to say is like, I'll just say this exactly the same way if I was writing this as an email. I would say, Ryan, my name is Jesse Vasquez. I am a housing solutions provider for people in this market. I've been able to help A, B, and C companies, and I use local companies. So like Doctors Medical Center, Memorial Medical Center, place employees in certain markets. Let me know if you have a few minutes to talk. I've been able to save these companies thousands of dollars. Literally that line, if everybody can just copy that line and send an email out that's that short and that simple, where this company's going to realize they can save money, they're going to want to talk to you because every company wants to save money. Trust me.
Especially hospitals. I do know that.
Yes, 100%.
Jesse, that was incredible. Really awesome business model here. So I appreciate you taking the time, Dave. Someone's like, oh my gosh, I need to learn more about Jesse, even maybe take a class from him, reach out to him. Where can they connect with you and do so at?
Yeah, you can go to therealjessevasquez.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at therealjessevasquez.com. And you guys can also, I have a bunch of free stuff. You can head over to mtrstrategy.com. There's a ton of free stuff there you can grab there for free. So yeah, you can find me. I'm all over the internet, all over the dang place. Brian, I appreciate you, man, for allowing me to jump in and chat with you guys.
Everyone, that was an amazing episode with Jesse. Absolutely love the business model behind it. So 3 quick takeaways for you. Number 1, early on, comprehending kind of what he's saying is take the leap. He put his hand through the door, he put his foot through the door, and next thing you know, he's doing $170,000 a month or so. So you got to be uncomfortable. You got to take that leap and actually be able to do something. Number 2, a lot of this is building relationships with the agencies, staffing agencies, hospitals. A lot of this just comes down to being a great relationship builder. Number 3, a pretty technical takeaway for you is to identify opportunities in your market. And how you do that is you go to Indeed, go to registered like travel nurses jobs openings in like Austin, Texas, wherever you're at, and see who's hiring, who needs nurses, and then actually call those hospitals up. Really technical advice there, but I absolutely loved it. That was a great takeaway for you. If you guys are enjoying this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast. It helps us get more amazing entrepreneurs like Jesse on the show, and we'll see you next Monday. You're the best, Jesse. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, man.